All right, we are going to look at what you need to do for your homework for the second part of the homework. We are going to look at this parent function right here, which we know is y equals a over x. And then the transformation formula is going to be y equals a, which talks about the stretch or compress, or if there's a reflection on the x-axis, over x minus h, which we know is talking about going left, moving left or right. And then plus k is in the back, which we know is talking about going up or down. All right, so if we look at this originally, we notice here, okay, I see A. We need to identify our transformation. So in order to identify transformations, we gotta see, oh, here's a 6. The parent function is going to have not an A at the top, it's gonna have a 1. That is my parent function. So we know that it's going to be getting 6 definitely bigger than 1. So I know it's going to be a stretch. So we have a vertical stretch by 6 to 1. And we also notice in front here, my parent function was a positive 1 over x. We have a negative here. So that also tells me that that negative is going to be a reflection um, on the x-axis or by the x-axis. Now, the next step we're going to look at is our H. Our H talks about what is happening to the shift, the horizontal shift. Is it going left? Or is it going right? Or is it not moving? If I look at this, my parent function here is by itself with just x in the denominator. Here I have x minus 3. Now keep in mind, remember, this is x minus h. So if it's x minus h and it is x minus 3, then that means that they plugged in a positive 3. So my horizontal shift is going to be at 3. And that talks about our x value, right? We're going right 3. That also will tell us that if I plug in 3 for x, I'm going to have 3 minus 3 in my denominator. And if I do that, evaluate that, 3 minus 3 is 0, which we know I cannot take something and divide it by nothing because that's going to give me undefined. That tells me when I look at my x-axis that I am going to have at 3, at this point right here, at 3 on the x-axis, that we cannot include that in our domain. So that tells me that I'm going to have a vertical asymptote, a VA, at positive 3 for x. That is going to be my VA. So if you ever see those initials, that just means vertical asymptote. It cannot be that value because it makes my function undefined. So my domain is going to be all real numbers except when x is equal to 3. So that's also my VA and also helps me figure out my domain. All right. The next part is our K. If we look at our K here, we notice it's a minus 2. Over here at the parent function, we don't have anything. It's 0. So going from my origin, we are shifting to negative 2, which means we're going down 2 units. So I'm going down 1, 2. And that tells me if I plug negative 2 in, I figure out I'm going to get an undefined answer as well if I solve for x. So if I know that I'm going to get undefined, my range cannot be negative 2. And to draw that asymptote, I know it's going through the y-axis, so it has to be a horizontal asymptote. So that's going to be my HA. because when -2 is in this equation for y and I solve for x, I get undefined. Therefore, I have my two asymptotes, my horizontal and my vertical. My range is going to be all real except -2. And I have all my transformations here. All right. Now, when you graph it, we know that x cannot be 3. If I plug 3 in, we get undefined. So that can't be the point. And you choose 1 to the right is 4. 1 to the left is 2. When I plug those in, we know that y equals -6 over 2. Well, it's -3. So that's my 1 point. And then let's choose the other point. -6 divided by 4 gives me a fraction of -1.5. So I'm going to graph that as well. So I have a point of 2. So I'm going 2, down, 1, 2, 3. Oh, that's my really important point. I know it's going to hover along these boundary lines. It's never going to actually touch it, but they're going to go towards each other. My next one is 4, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, right 4, and I'm going down 1.5. So I'm getting really close to that -2, but I'm not actually going to be touching it. Then we can draw our curves, and that's how you guys draw a rational function using the transformations. So that I'm going to have you answer 3 questions on the transformations, identifying your vertical and horizontal asymptote, and then choosing points to graph. You're always going to look at your h value, that x value that we can't use, and then choose a point to the right and choose a point to the left. And that will help you map out the graph. The next question that we're going to look at is going to write an equation of the translations of y equals 6 over x. They're telling us that's our function that we're looking at, and we're going to use these translations to write our new function. They're telling us our asymptotes are x equals -4 and y equals 2. We talked about this a second ago. We know our parent function up top, if you remember, is y equals x minus over, not x, sorry. We know it's a over x minus h plus k. That talks about our transformations. So I'm going to take the 6. I'm going to keep it there. They didn't tell me to get rid of it. And we have x in the denominator. It is telling us x is -4. Remember, when we looked up here, we found our vertical asymptote was x equals 3, right? And we notice that when we identified h, that automatically told me which x value would not work. So if this is my vertical asymptote of -4, then that tells me that dotted line is going through -4 on the x-axis. So my h is going to be whatever my vertical asymptote is. So h is -4. Vice versa, if my horizontal asymptote is going through y equals 2, then I can assume k equals 2. So we're just going to take those two values and plug them in. So I have my h is -2. I know the formula is x minus, so it's x minus -4. Now, when we have double negatives, we know that negative times a negative is a positive. So it has to be x plus 4 in the denominator. Now, looking at the k, plug k 2 in for k. 2 positive and a positive doesn't change, so it's just plus 2. And then that is going to be my new function given y equals 6 over x in our vertical and horizontal asymptote. And that is what I'm going to have you guys do on those last 2 sides for the homework.